Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Newsgram. It's never been our practice to get political on Newsgram, and we're not going to start today, even though it may seem like that's where we're going. It's actually quite the opposite. These are challenging times, and I say that with the utmost optimism. I think conflict and challenge can lead to positive change, and the best way to solve a problem is by first identifying what it is. Easier said than done, right? Well, not for Winston Langley, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Once identified, we need to take an objective look at the problems we face. Finding an objective source of information, now that is one of the problems. As human beings, we are inherently biased by our beliefs, our backgrounds, and our experiences. Now, we may not be able to solve the world's problems on this edition of Newsgram, but we are going to solve the domestic ones. I'd like you to meet Winston Langley, a man with a pedigree that makes him a whole lot smarter than me, at least when it comes to biology, diplomatic history, international political science, and the law.
The United States has had very important opportunities to deal with certain problems and for a number of reasons has stepped away from or neglected to attend to the problems.
At the time of this recording, we just transitioned from one type of leadership to another, which makes it a great time to evaluate where we've been and where we're going. According to Winston, for over 100 years, both political parties and a long succession of U.S. leaders have failed to embrace countless opportunities across a variety of areas to make a major contribution to our society or the world.
We are confronted with a convergence of these problems which threaten the society as a whole, and because the U.S. leads the world, threatens global society also.
So what are the problems? They're all laid out chapter by chapter in his new book, While the U.S. Sleeps, Squandered Opportunities and Looming Threats to Societies. Problems like arms limitation, third-party dispute settlement and security, economic models chosen and pursued by the U.S., race and class, and how race has been used to mask a class system in our society, education and popular culture, the environment, and steps that have been taken to deal with global warming, as well as how we've behaved in light of those threats. According to Winston, in an effort to deal with some of these issues, we have focused on personalities, specific presidents, for example, or political parties. We've identified events or movements like the 1960s radicals or far-right extremists, when instead what we should be looking at are rooted patterns that have shaped and reinforced our institutions. His book looks at some of those patterns and offers a possible new course of action. So in light of all this, you might be asking, where did he get his information?
I used a number of law libraries, for example. Locally, the Boston University Law Library. I used the public archives at Harvard. I say public because it contains all the archives from the United Nations and much from the U.S. I used some diplomatic exchange from Yale University. I used our local Athenaeum. I used my own university library. And of course, I have a library at home.
Winston Langley is Professor Emeritus of Political Science and International Relations and Senior Fellow at the McCormick Graduate School for Policy and Global Studies at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. He has taken on issues that are not just political or economic, but that have a direct bearing on each one of our lives. And he does it quite often. There's a link in the show notes to all of his books. Maybe we're not all cut out to change the world, but if you want to make the world a better place and you're looking to do a little more than just love your neighbor, Winston Langley has paved the way. While the U.S. Sleeps, Squandered Opportunities and Looming Threats to Societies. And that's it for this edition of Newsgram.